I was not raised to be religious. In college, I got a degree in computer science, and I went on to get a degree in AI. But while in college, I often wondered about the meaning of life, usually right before the final exams. But seriously, I started thinking about this. After college, I worked for a couple of years in the industry, the computer software engineer industry, and I felt that there are so many computer engineers. One more is not gonna make much difference, right? So do I have a mission? What can I contribute? Where can I make a difference? And also, the why are we here? And that kind of question became pretty prominent. So I started looking into various different fields, starting first with Western religion, because I have college friends who are very diligent in bringing me to church. So I started to read the Bible a little bit, and the more I read, the more questions I have. There are questions that doesn't seem to be able to be answered within the framework of Christianity. So I started. So I asked. At one time, I went to ask a pastor these questions, and back and forth and back and forth. Eventually, the answer that he was not able to answer was, "It's God's will. You don't need to know." So for a engineering mind, that's not satisfactory. From Western religion, I went to Western philosophy. I sat in on some classes in graduate school, but I felt that they are very much focused on arguing back and forth about the different tenets or premises that they set forth, and doesn't really touch the mind or touch your life. From Western philosophy, I went to Eastern philosophy, and that I seem to resonate with that a lot more. Taoist philosophy and so on, and from there I was able to discover a book on Zen in English, and that hit me like more than anything before. So I started getting to Buddhism. At that time, it was really difficult to find a Chinese sutra in the United States. Oh, by the way, I was in the United States. I came to the States when I was a teenager. So I had to ask my Christian friend who brought me to church when he went back to Taiwan to bring me a Buddhist sutra. He was a good friend. Anyway, so that the more you study Buddhism, the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. I think all of you have that experience. And one of the first scripture that got me interested, that really draw me deep, was Sharanagama Sutra. And the teaching there is presented in a very logical and rational way, which fit my mind really well. However, it was so difficult. None of my friends are interested in Buddhism, so I was alone in this, and I had so many questions. It was a very difficult sutra, so I would study it for like a few paragraphs and get stuck. But I would not give up, and after maybe a month or two, I go back. And so this went on for like a couple of years, and I didn't even go through the first chapter. So I thought, this is not gonna work. So I decided to chant the sutra. It has 10 fascicles, 10 chapters. So I started to chant it and a few times, and then somehow the flow, the organization of the scripture made a lot of sense. I start drawing a flow chart. Those of you, those of you who are who know computer science, a flow chart is, boxes of, logical flow of, where one thing goes to, what, from beginning how you go to the result. It's like an algorithm. And I actually drew a flow chart of the sutra, and then everything came together, and I was so shocked that how rational, how logical it was organized, how well did the Buddha taught, from the beginning to the end. But then I was still reluctant to believe in this religion, so I tried to challenge it. I tried to think of ways I tried to find holes. Yeah, if I'm going to devote my life into studying this, it can't be the wrong thing. If it's the wrong thing, then I'm gonna waste a lot of my life, right? So I try to find holes in the framework, in the Buddhist framework. But the more I dug into it, the more I'm overwhelmed by how well it is. And when you come to emptiness, then that's the perfect framework. There's no hole, no holes, no logical faults that you can find. Of course, there's still difficult issues like reincarnation, right? How can a scientifically trained person believe reincarnation? So I thought about questions like that for a few years until I came to the conclusion that karma obviously makes a lot of sense. And if karma is true, the causal principles are true, there has to be rebirth. There has to be rebirth. There's no other way. So that took many years, from 22 to 30, about 7-8 years, until I met my Shifu, Grandmaster Wei Jie. He came to the United States for the first time to give a series of talks, and it was overwhelming. I was totally shocked by how clear he was, and how deep he was, how he was able to present the wisdom of the Buddha like the Chan masters, the ancient Zen masters that I admire so much. Before that, I attended Dharma talks by several well-known Taiwanese masters. So Buddhism in Taiwan is very, very is prospering, has been prospering for 30 years. So it's very popular there, and there are some great masters who built large monasteries. And Grandmaster Wei Jie, he was kind of like up and coming one. He's getting really popular, and when I heard his talk, I knew why, and I felt that in my mind, nobody came close to his realization and his wisdom. He spoke with such a convincing air. You feel that it was not intellectual knowledge; it was something from his own realization. That's different, because some masters, they talk it's a knowledge. They're really well studied. They know the knowledge really well, but this was different. And when he was, the 2 days he was in Los Angeles, I was able to follow him wherever he went, and was able to get into small group discussions with him. And so I asked all the harder questions that I couldn't resolve to him, and he was able to always, within a couple of sentences, get to the heart of the issue, and that was, and that's when I felt it was not knowledge that I'm used to, because I study and try to get a PhD, but whenever you go to a conference, present your research or whatever, people ask hard questions, and you have to dig into your brain to remember these. It wasn't like that. It was like, poof. I asked, You strike the gong, kyang, and then immediately. I ask a question immediately it's like without thinking, he immediately sees what your blind spot is. And he was able to get right to it. So I know that he knew something that was profound from his own practice. And also the way that he explained how to practice and why this kind of practice, like the meditation, the Eightfold Path, the chant practice, why is that can lead you to nirvana, to liberation. A lot of times in Chinese Buddhism, it's like there's very popular to say that this is the Dharma ending age. There's no way we can get enlightened. So all we can do is to chant the Buddha's name and aim for the Amitabha Pure Land, right? So I couldn't do that for more than 10 minutes. So it's a beautiful practice, but it's not for me. And I just don't want to believe that, okay, there's nobody that can get enlightened at this age, right? So he was really the first one that very definitely and confidently said, yes, you can get awakened in this lifetime, and you can do the real serious practice. Even though we are getting to the Dharma ending age, but we can create a small pocket of pure land, with very serious practitioners. The trend may be going that way, but then we can create this small pocket of pure land where we have serious practitioners. We work, we help each other, and then it's still possible to get enlightened. So that was just what I needed. And so when I met the Grandmaster, I decided I must follow him. But then I knew that becoming a monastic would be the right way, but I was not fully convinced. No, let me retract that. I was still hesitating. And then one day when I was driving on the California freeway, you know how that goes, and I had a strange feeling that the hair on my head is useless, is extraneous, I don't know why it's there. So I knew it was time.